Record to the cloud. Okay, I think we're recording, and I think we're ready to get moving and grooving. So, play from the start. Thank you everyone for joining today. I'm going to repeat kind of my spiel from earlier, so it's on the recording. But this is the workshop on changing habits for changing lives. By me, I'm Daisy Jo Vallejo, an OTD student. This will be recorded. If you don't want your face to be shown, please keep your camera off. And at the end of recording, I will let you all know so that we can then start the questions if you guys have any. But I did request that you guys bring a pen and paper to this workshop. If you didn't, that's no biggie. It was just if you wanted to write down areas that you're interested in remembering or questions you have for the presentation. So that's kind of the reason why. So, hi, I'm Daisy Jo Vallejo. I am a current intern at Gildas Club Kansas City, and I'm completing my capstone experience at Gildas Club to support the programming and to learn more about the impact of cancer. A bit about me is that I'm a fifth generation Jayhawk, and I've been living in Kansas for the past few years. Today, I plan to teach you about habits and what you can do to start and stop them. So within this presentation, you will learn what is a habit, how to maintain an existing routine, and how to modify old habits or create new ones to enhance overall well-being. So to start things off, what is a habit? According to Gardner et al., psychologists define habitual behaviors as actions that are activated automatically when people encounter situations in which they have consistently done that action in the past. Merriam-Webster Dictionary describes it as a settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that is hard to give up. This could be waking up every morning and drinking your cup of coffee, or doing a Jeep wave for those who have a Jeep. As we go through this part of the presentation, I want you to think of different daily habits that you complete. I know most of us have heard that it takes 21 days to make or break a habit. Well, that may be true for when motivation is high, but most of the time it takes longer than that. In recent research, a habit is created on average in 66 days, but can range between 18 and 254 days. This is more specific on the goal that you want to change. For example, if you want to change brushing your teeth before your coffee in the morning, it's a simple task since you already brush your teeth, but are just changing the time that you do it. A more difficult task is to create a workout routine because if you do not already exercise, then it can be difficult due to finding the time or creating the structure of the workout. On that note, a 2015 study suggests that new gym participants had to exercise 4 times per week for 6 weeks to develop the habit, which in hindsight is 42 days, but if I'm being honest, that seems low. An accountability partner can increase that success by 70%. So by telling someone that you love that you need to get it done, or if they're doing it with you. Also, by writing down your goals can increase the completion by 42%. So I don't know about you, but I highly enjoy crossing things off my list, and it makes me feel good. Other stats for habits are that 40 to 43% of daily behaviors are habitual. So that morning commute that you do daily on autopilot, that counts. Social factors can also impact the things that you do. So if you have friends who go out every weekend, then there's a chance that you're more likely to do the same. Same thing for someone who's a yoga guru and does it daily. By interacting with them enough can influence how you complete your daily habits. So why does creating and changing habits matter to you? At Gildas Club, we can support individuals who have been impacted by cancer. So my assumption is most of you have been impacted. Cancer can cause a large change in lifestyle, thinking habits, and daily living. Depending on the treatment, chemo, radiation, surgery, and the stage of cancer can also alter the ability to continue to change a habit. A general rule of thumb is that by continuing the daily habits can help to bring normalcy to the chaos of the diagnosis and treatment. It can increase your wellness by keeping physically, emotionally, and mentally active and while you're healing, and can help to bring control to an uncontrollable situation. You did not choose to get cancer, but now that you have it or that you had it, you can try and do all the things that you can do to maintain that normalcy. For creating new habits, it can help to create a more healthy lifestyle. Prior to the cancer diagnosis, you may have been participating in lifestyle choices that may not have been the most healthy, but by starting new healthy habits, which I'll explain some examples later, can reduce the risk of other health problems too. So, what is a bad habit? According to, and I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, Sagan's Medical Dictionary, a bad habit is a pattern behavior regarded as detrimental to one's physical or mental health, often linked to the lack of self control. Typically, these habits start out as responsible or as a response to a negative emotion to reduce a feeling. An example is that people drink or smoke more when they're stressed out, and over time, doing this behavior will be difficult to stop. Habit creation can be impacted by social settings, such as where you are, whether in the office or out at a bar, who you're with, such as friends and family or strangers, and with those people you're around, if they have certain mannerisms or language that they use over time, you will potentially pick that up. And something also being around other people could be peer pressure, could be an impact. So, no matter at what age an individual is, they can be impacted by that peer pressure. And if a person is in a habit loop, which is like a cue, response, and reward kind of loop, can have a person respond to a certain emotion. So, if like an example of that is when people are tired or bored, the habit of crap snacking or that overeating can happen. So, like your cue is that you're hungry or bored, your response is to eat, and your reward is having your mouth move and potentially be more entertained. Other examples of bad habits are excessive drinking, smoking and drugs, sedentary tasks or like activities, high sugar or high processed foods and drinks, biting nails, consistently being late, and screen time before bed. Some of these aren't going to harm you, but can cause difficulty with lifestyle changes in the future. Since we just talked about bad habits, what is a good habit? A good habit is a positive, beneficial, and consistently practiced behavior that enhances overall well-being, leading to favorable long-term outcomes, whether that's physical, emotional, or psychological. These are habits that people typically try to start during their New Year's resolutions, such as work out 3 days a week or to see friends once a month. Other examples of physical habits are eating healthy, consuming a diet of fruits, vegetables, proteins, whole grains, dairy, sufficient sleep, or sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night, or staying hydrated, which would be drinking enough water. Emotional and mental habits are those that can regulate your emotions, calm down your mind, or help to increase your knowledge. Options for this is mindfulness meditation, which is taking 3 minutes to clear your mind of all your stressors and taking deep breaths. Practice gratitude by expressing gratitude to friends and family or what I do is when I go to bed at night, I think of all the people who I'm thankful for. So practicing that gratitude. Another one is learning new things, such as increasing your knowledge on random topics or trying a new craft or activity. And then spending time in nature. It's now starting to get super nice out. And so taking a walk or today's not a good day for this because it's kind of dreary. But when there is sun, standing in the sun for about like 5 minutes just to get that vitamin D. And then for some people that want to be better with their productivity at work or organizing their life, Some options for good habits are under this topic are practicing time management. So by giving yourself 15 minutes or more prior to leaving for an event, setting clear goals for yourself in your personal work or social life. So, like for myself, a goal of mine is to spend time with friends 4 times per month. And then maintaining a clean and organized workspace can be another positive habit because I don't know about you, but for myself, having a clean workspace allows me to have a more productive day. And finally, relationship habits. They can have multiple options for good habits. I only chose a few to discuss with you, but again, this is not an end all be all list. First is spending quality time with loved ones. This could be going on a walk, grabbing a coffee, or giving them a quick call to check in. Practicing active listening and empathy. And this can be a good habit to start when having miscommunication difficulties or anytime, really. And then finally, expressing appreciation for those that you love. So this can be done daily or however often you like. These habits are not the end all be all, as what I mentioned before, but are good options for if you want to start any of these soon. Good habits are able to be seen as a part of the circle, part of the circle of wellness. So, what is a circle of wellness? The circle of wellness is a holistic approach to health and wellness. It connects different areas of an individual's life by looking individually at each area, could give ideas for individuals on how they can better increase their wellness. In the next 2 slides, I'll be going through each area of wellness with you. So, first, we'll start off with emotional wellness. Emotional wellness involves developing awareness of feelings and responding to everyday interactions. So, this would be to be kind to yourself, taking time to quiet your mind and reflect, smiling or laughing, because humor is a very great coping mechanism when you're having a difficult day or dealing with a difficult situation. And then sharing thoughts and feelings with those that you trust. That can also kind of allow your emotional wellness to be satisfied. Next is intellectual wellness, and this encourages us to engage in mentally stimulating and creative activities. So that's kind of like your lifelong learning curiosity factor of your life. So it's to be open minded, pick up a new hobby, and if you're interested in reading, read for pleasure, or find something you're really interested in that you can divulge into that is something you like. Next is physical wellness, and that is the ability to maintain a daily balance of completing activities without fatigue or physical stress. Granted, fatigue can happen with cancer treatment, so take that as you will, but basically it's just to find the time to move your body, whether it's moving your arms up and down 10 times or just walking from A to B versus just sitting in a chair for X amount of time, right? So again, these are kind of options, not what you have to do. Other options for physical wellness is to use stairs instead of elevators, and then to learn the warning signs for when your body is starting to feel sick. And then spiritual wellness, that allows us to be in tune with our inner selves, not just through religion, but through spirituality. So that's meditating or practicing your mindfulness relaxation, which we have a class for at Gilda's Club. Put that plug in. To practice acceptance and accepting maybe difficult situations around you, to be curious about new things or things you're unsure of, and then to potentially travel and experience other cultures if you can. Then, environmental wellness. That refers to leading a lifestyle that values ourselves, our community, and the environment. That's to spend time outdoors, unplugging from technology, using reusable bags and water bottles, and donating unwanted clothing. And then occupational wellness, that allows exploration into various career options and encourages pursuit into those that bring the most joy. So it's again to keep an open mind and practice open communication and conflict management. Social wellness focuses on building and nurturing meaningful relationships. And so that's reflecting on your social needs, joining a club or organization, or volunteering in the community. And then finally, financial wellness. That involves learning how to manage your financial expenses or all around money related tasks. So, to start with some small changes, maybe make your coffee at home versus purchasing a coffee out. Start a savings account or planning ahead and setting those budget goals. So, why OT to teach you? Occupational therapists are highly educated in utilizing the lens of wellness and using this as a holistic approach to support clients in all areas of their life. So, to circle back to why am I teaching you this, I am an occupational therapy student. So, that's what the OTD is. And I'm graduating in May. And so I've been learning a lot about holistic care and circle of wellness and all of that. So I felt that I could then teach it on to you. So what we do is, as OTs, is we look at the person, context, task, and their performance when developing an action plan to support an individual and their goals. By providing holistic care, we can be able to increase independence for individuals and can do this by helping to establish a new baseline or restore previous baseline. We can modify or adapt tasks to make it easier to complete, can alter the environment to make it safer or easier to complete tasks. We educate on prevention of future health challenges, or we can help support creation of policies or enhancement of already created policies. And that's kind of higher up governmental things. So now that we know what is a habit, including the good and bad habits, and the areas of wellness that can impact a person's lifestyle, we'll move into how to maintain habits. So the habits on this slide you may already be familiar with or doing yourself. And I mentioned a bunch of them earlier, but I'm going to repeat. So first, you have your physical activity habits, and that can be anaerobic or aerobic activities. So these are activities that you may be completing with friends or on your own. Aerobic activities are those that require oxygen to sustain the activity long term, such as jogging, swimming, cycling. And an anaerobic exercise are those more short bursts of intense activity, such as the weightlifting or high intensity interval training. Other activities you may be doing are simple daily walks around the park or stretching. The second set of habits are healthy eating. For healthy eating, you should be eating a diet of fruits, vegetables, protein, dairy, whole grains. Protein is starred because it helps with healing, whether from exercise or from the treatments of cancer. And then hydration, aka like your water intake, is important for individuals to drink at least 8 glasses of water a day. In the middle column, the educate for yourself for like the 5 minutes a day is something I'm trying to complete for a daily habit. I listen to podcasts, but other ways that you can do it is by reading books or newspapers or potentially a fun fact of the day. So, example, a fun fact for today is that April 3rd is known as World Party Day, as well as Rainbow Day. So, maybe there's a party at the end of the rainbow. If there's a rainbow you see anywhere today, think of it. Think of me, maybe. Another area in which you may be already doing is getting the 7 to 9 hours of sleep. By getting into the deepest part of your sleep cycle will also allow your body to heal from injuries or potentially like your cancer treatments. Finally, the management of stress and anxiety. Cancer can increase an individual's daily stressors and anxieties tenfold. Something you may be doing to support yourself are meditating, deep breathing, or by giving yourself positive affirmations to help get yourself by. If you're still working on this, that's a-okay. It's everybody's a work in progress, as well as myself. But Gilda's Club has many healthy lifestyle classes that you can attend to get more tips and tricks to better increase your wellness. Now that you have some examples for different habits you may already be doing, these are the steps to complete slash to try and maintain habits, especially in a time of stress or with a new life event. Just for you to know, these habits are not linear. They can fluctuate up and down with how schedules and life situations are. It is okay to take time off of a habit when you're trying to focus on other tasks. However, if it is really important, don't lose focus on that goal or habit you want to accomplish. If you're having difficulty with maintaining a habit, don't be afraid to reach out to a friend or family member for support. So, to start off on the first column, having a supportive environment, which would include people you surround yourself with, and a healthy physical environment that you are in. That can help continue the habits that you're doing. So, if your friends are giving you the rah rahs and supporting you, and physically your environment is potentially clean or good lighting, has just a good atmosphere to it, kind of that energy, that can help. The second column is another recommendation is to establish a routine. So completing your habits daily can be a reminder when things get busy. It also becomes second nature so that you don't have to think about it anymore. Another recommendation is to track your progress. So by writing down your habits or goals daily, that can make sure that they can get crossed off. And I don't know about you, again, I mentioned this earlier, but crossing something off my list is very satisfying. I typically do like paper list, and then I also have an app on my phone where I'm growing a bird, which I know that's very silly. And if you have questions about that later, I'll tell you. And that also has me complete these same daily tasks, but I'm getting that satisfaction as well. Another thing to maintain habits is to reward yourself. So after completing a series of habits, even after even after a long day, having the discipline to complete your goals, you can give yourself like a sweet treat or something meaningful for yourself as a reward. The fifth recommendation is to focus on the why you are wanting to achieve this habit or goal. It can help to motivate yourself into continuing the goal. So find that like big overarching why, and that can help boost your motivation. And then finally, to start small and then to build upon that success. For goals, it's important to have them to be manageable and achievable. So if you've ever heard of a SMART goal, that kind of goes into the specific ways that first, you want it to be specific, manageable, achievable, realistic, and then time savvy. So that's like your SMART. And that can help you remain within it to be like achievable, um, and to be able to be completed. So, like an example of this, I'm not going to say I'm going to go run a marathon in a year because that's without training, that would be wild. But instead, finding the smaller goal and saying within 3 months, I'll run a 5K and then I'll build myself up with those other milestones. Um, so it's just basically finding those small chunks into the bigger picture, like your stepping stones. Which ironically, I didn't remember that this is the next picture, but again, your stepping stones. So now that you know about ways to maintain your habits, I'll educate you on how to create a habit or modify an old habit. First, to have resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from a difficult situation and still wish to complete the habit. For example, a person gets a cancer diagnosis, and the first few weeks are super hard to cope and figuring out a new way of life. And then they have to find the drive to restart and create new habits to benefit themselves, whether that's to be able to get through treatment or finding ways to best educate themselves on their cancer, things like that. The second area a person may benefit for creating habits is having care for the habit. So, a new habit, you want to have the care into what you're adding or changing in your life. So, to develop and maintain a behavior, a person needs to have care to prioritize their well being. So, if you don't wish or care to change something in your life, you're not going to do it, right? And then the third area that connects with the caring of a habit is to have the will or want to change and add to your life. A habit should be self-initiated and developed to prioritize you and your own well-being. So an example of this, if a person says, "Hey, I think you should start eating healthy," it would be beneficial for you and your health. And you may not want to do that since you are not the one to initiate the wish to eat healthy. It may actually be a barrier depending on how the comment comes across. So, the trans-theoretical model is a model that follows along human behavior towards change. This is a model that has been thoroughly researched and can be connected to how people try to complete a new habit. The model is flexible, where a person can start at different stages or revert back to the beginning stages. I'll explain each stage and give you an example that follows along each one. So, the first stage in the trans-theoretical model is the pre-contemplation stage. This is where a person may not have the thoughts for changing a behavior or are unaware of the change that would need to be happening. So, this is a personal example because I have been getting better at this. Is examples of biting nails unconsciously. I used to bite my nails, and I've kind of utilized this trans-theoretical model as well as habit stacking and habit breaking kind of deal to be better at it. So for pre-contemplation, it's biting nails unconsciously. Then the second stage is contemplation. That's where the person is aware of the problem and they are aware that they need to make a change. So somebody tells you, "Hey, biting nails is bad." And then I have my papers. The third stage is preparation. And this is where a person is actively planning to make the small changes to their behavior. So the person thinking about purchasing bad tasting nail polish or putting a rubber band on their wrist as kind of that preparation stage, preparing to do the action. So the fourth stage is the action stage. This is where the person is actively engaging in their new behavior. In this stage, a person is at risk of relapse or reverting back to their original behavior. So that's when you're putting on your bad tasting nail polish or putting on that rubber band. And every time you think to put your hands in your mouth, you snap the rubber band or you have that bad taste. The fifth stage is maintenance. This is a stage where a person has been successful in maintaining their new behavior for a time and then working on preventing that relapse. So you have not bit your nails in 2 weeks. You are able to continue moving forward with it, but you may keep the rubber band on your wrist just in case, but you may not be utilizing it as often because it's becoming a part of your routine and you're maintaining that new habit. So I just told you about the trans-theoretical model. That is to help to start a habit. Now that you have a habit started, what is habit stacking? So according to the American Institute for Cancer Research, they define habit stacking as the act of building new habits onto existing rituals, and that's to make meaningful changes to your day-to-day lifestyles. This is where you pair an already established habit with something you want to complete that's new. Typically, it's easier to connect habits that are in the same wellness area. So, a physical activity habit of walking twice a week with friends, a person can add to that or habit stack that by doing 5 push-ups during those days. So, every time that you walk with friends, you add the 5 push-ups when you get home. Another example is also with walking, is to add 10-minute walk after you brush your teeth. I don't know about you, but if you feel so inclined to go on a walk after you have clean teeth, I give you kudos. The stages of habit stacking are first, the cue or alarm bell to change. So, for example, you wake up and walk to the bathroom with morning breath. Then the craving of the behavior change, and this is the drive or motivation to change. So, it's the need to brush your teeth or to clean your mouth. Then the response is the action of you completing the task or continuing the example, it's you brushing your teeth. And the final step is the rewards, what you gain in response to completing the task or habit. So you get fresh breath and clean teeth. So I'll give you another example. To imagine that you want to stretch more often to improve your flexibility and to keep your joints working well. So here's how that would work with using the 4 stages of habit stacking. So after you eat, while sitting on a chair in the kitchen, and your joints kind of feel tight when you get up. So it's your cue that you want to improve your flexibility. So then you have your craving of, I want to feel more limber. Then you're going to do 10 minutes of stretching after breakfast, which is your response to the craving of wanting to be more limber or be more flexible. And then your reward is that your joints will feel better and your flexibility will improve. So to be able to change old habits, you first need to know what those habits are to begin with. So identify what are your current habits, and you can do this by understanding your triggers. Triggers can be the situation, emotion, or cue that led you to engage in the unwanted habit. Recognize the routine and what steps that it takes to engage in the habit, and then pinpoint the reward on why the current habit makes you feel so good or satisfied. So, an example is smoking cigarettes. You may feel inclined to smoke in a social setting, and you get a relief for when you're overstimulated from the social setting. So, the second step is to disrupt the habit loop by removing your triggers and replacing your routine or changing the reward. To carry along the example, it's where you either don't bring cigarettes to a social setting, not go to the same place that keeps having you be overstimulated, or to bring gum instead. So completely removing the item and bringing something instead that's more healthy. The third step is to create a supportive environment by changing your surroundings and seeking support or to practice mindfulness. So, this would be to change your friendships if they're pressuring you to smoke, or to seek guidance from a counselor or support group and practice ways you can guard your spirit or to build your resilience. The fourth step is to implement a new habit. It's important to start small and to be consistent, and then to celebrate your progress. For example, the habit of smoking, try one day instead of grab a piece of gum every time you have a craving for a cigarette, and then treat yourself every day that you're cigarette free. The fifth step is just to be patient and persistent. Please know that changing habits takes time, and then look at those little wins of, I did it 3 days. I did it 5 days. Even if you do relapse, it's knowing that you have the ability to do so and that you can change the habits. Potential future habits that may be beneficial for individuals with cancer and with cancer prevention are kind of ideas on this list, but it's not an all-inclusive list. So you have any other options for areas find beneficial, please share them with the group if you'd like. So the options may include maintaining a healthy weight, getting physically active weekly, not using nicotine and minimally drinking alcohol, protecting yourself from the sun, eating a healthy diet, and to go to your screening appointments. Thank you so much for attending my workshop on habits. I hope that you've learned something from this presentation or got a reminder for what habits you're currently doing. I'm going to pause the recording and then I will open it up the floor for questions.